I know a lot of COD commentary videos usually talk about things that are a bit negative or reflect on the issues that we experience now in society. But I want to talk about something positive today. I want to talk about how I landed my dream job. Everyone likes a comeback story, and my story is a massive comeback story. I ended up completely lost in life, not knowing what I wanted to do, somewhat disillusioned, somewhat isolated, and kind of drifting through life until I found a new passion and decided to pursue it. So buckle up, grab a snack, grab a drink, and I'll get right into it. So just a brief backstory. I grew up in a family of 5 boys, and we were all soccer players. My father played professional soccer for 13 years. He's from Morocco, so he played in Morocco, he played in Spain, he played in France, he played in Portugal, he played in Libya, and eventually he played a bit here in the United States as well before retiring. So I grew up in a soccer family. Ever since I was about 10 years old, my dream was to be a professional soccer player. So I played literally every day from 9 or 10 years old up until about 21 years old. And the reason why that stopped is because I had a pretty negative experience playing college soccer. I only played 1 year. I got recruited by a top 4 D2 program, and I had a full scholarship. I was a good student, so I had academic scholarship and athletic scholarship. So I was able to get basically a full ride while playing soccer. And the reason why it didn't work out is because in the regular season, the coach didn't play me that much. And the moments that he did play me, I actually did make a decent difference in the game. In one of the games he subbed me on, I scored within a minute of being subbed on. And I only ended up playing 4 games out of about 20-something games. It was really weird because the team would have away games and I wouldn't be called on the travel roster. And I even had teammates asking me, like, why isn't coach playing you? Like, you're a really good player. Why isn't coach playing you? And I would always respond, I don't know, man. Ask him. I really don't understand why he's not playing me. And at the time, it really was like soul crushing because that was my dream. And I realized, like, damn, it's probably not going to happen. Fast forward to the spring season, because soccer is a fall sport for college. So we had our competitive, actual, like, meaningful games in the fall. And then spring season was essentially for, recovery and improvement, just playing friendly matches and whatnot. So spring season comes around and the coach tells the team, the coach who recruited me, he tells the team, hey guys, I actually accepted a role at a bigger school as an assistant coach. So I'm going to be stepping away from this team, and essentially kind of left the future of the team kind of in the air. The university had to do an extensive recruiting process to replace him because he was a very, very accomplished coach, and he was actually young. He was a pretty young coach, and he had done so much for the program. So they wanted to make sure that if they want to continue on that track, they need to hire a really, really good coach. So the new coach gets hired. It's a guy from England who, funny enough, actually almost recruited me to a bigger college that I tried out for, where some of my high school teammates ended up playing. And he told me, even before I ended up leaving, he said, when I was watching you play at the tryouts, it was breathtaking at times how much talent you have. I understood his decision. He had his own plans. He had his own players in mind for the team, his own direction. So I ended up leaving the team. And I went back to Minnesota, and I was totally lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I basically started to fall out of love with soccer. I was still playing NPSL, which is a semi-pro league, where a lot of players do end up going to the next level and succeeding. But I was really realizing, like, you know what? I'm realizing that the politics and all the extra BS, it's not it for me. I wasn't mature enough to work through that. My mindset was meritocracy. If you're the best, you're going to play. If you're the best, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks you're going to play. And that's just not the reality. That's not the reality of the world. Oftentimes, it's who you know, it's who your father knows, it's who someone you know knows. It's kind of a sad reality, but that's the reality. So around the time that I was 22, I was like fully done with soccer. I was not training. I was not doing any of that. I had started up my own sports media business. I was doing videography for my high school team. I was doing filming. I was doing editing. I was doing outreach. I had started my own business, essentially. The final semester that I was in the D2 school, I had begun watching boxing. I started watching Floyd Mayweather, who was still big at the time. I was watching Pacquiao. I was watching Adrian Broner. I was watching a little bit of UFC because combat sports, you're eventually going to be introduced to the UFC. And I had known of the UFC ever since I was little. I just was never into it. And what was really appealing about combat sports at that time in my life was the fact that it was just you. You didn't have to rely on teammates or anyone. It was just you. And because I had a very negative taste in my mouth, a very sour taste in my mouth from my soccer career, there was a very special appeal to combat sports because it was just you. If you messed up, you pay the price. It's not because someone else messed up that you pay the price. That was one thing that really drew me to combat sports. After I had decided that I was done with soccer, I still needed a competitive outlet. So I had picked up Smash Bros. Smash Brothers Melee for the Nintendo GameCube, to be specific. And it's so funny because what got me into Smash competitively was the Smash Bros. Doc, which was released in 2013, and I didn't watch it until late 2016. I had been playing Smash Bros at home with my brothers and cousins just to pass the time, something fun to do. We were all really into it, and we were obviously not really good, but it was really fun. And I remember one of my cousins was the best out of all of us, and I really wanted to get good enough to beat him. I was like, you know what? I want to get good at this, so I'm going to go see if there's anyone out there who's really good at it. I ended up watching the Smash Bros, and the documentary was so well put together. It had legitimate story arcs. It made you attached to the different players, attached to the development of the game, and you can see how certain players made advancements. It leveled everyone else up, and it was very similar in boxing and in MMA, which I had really been into at the time. And so I decided to dedicate myself to getting better at Smash and going to tournaments and meeting new people and traveling across the nation and whatnot. And it's funny because I didn't really have any bills to pay. I was living with my parents at the time, and eventually I did have to start paying bills, which made me focus less on Smash because I had achieved essentially what I wanted to do in Smash. I went to all the major tournaments. I was able to beat some good players, beat a lot of the people that were top 10 in my state. And I'd say my career ran its course. There wasn't really anything else for me to do. I saw that even the top players they're struggling financially. They're not making a lot of money from the game. And if they are making money, it's from streaming. Most of it's from streaming and content creation, not from actually playing. And I knew that I wasn't going to catch up to them because I just didn't have the motivation nor the time to do it. And throughout the whole time, I was still doing the sports videography. I was filming, I was editing, I was trying to grow my business, doing networking, reaching out to coaches, whatnot. And I was getting better at it. That skill set was improving. I've always noticed that the things that I got into, apart from soccer, the origins of me being interested in them came from documentaries, from content I consumed. So with Smash Bros, it was the Smash Doc. With bodybuilding, it was Pumping Iron and The Comeback with Arnold Schwarzenegger. With martial arts, it was Bruce Lee films and documentaries about Bruce Lee, and that eventually tied me into, boxing with Muhammad Ali, and then I started watching Floyd, and then I started watching the UFC, and Conor McGregor was on the rise at that time, and John Jones was still champion, and I look back at that time in my life really fondly because I had no sense of direction of what I was going to do next. I remember reading an article that was written about John Jones. The writer said, John Jones became champion at age 23, an age where most people still don't know what they want to do with their life. And when I read that, I was like, damn, he really did reach the pinnacle of the sport at a time where most people are still figuring things out. They don't know what they want to do. People don't even know what they want to do when they're in their 30s and their 40s. And thankfully, some people are able to figure it out. But a lot of people are just kind of drifting through life and doing accepting whatever comes their way, and they're not trying to change it for the better. So I had stepped away from Smash, and then I had some personal issues, which I can talk about in another video. But essentially, I had a really, really low point in life. I was going through a bad breakup. I realized that my soccer dream was officially dead, and I was deciding to drop out of college. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to continue college or not. And I was in debt, and I was getting calls from the bank. I would just ignore them. And I remember I think I had 180 days delinquency on a credit card payment that I had. I eventually turned things around. I decided, you know what? I can roll over and wait for someone to come and save me, which it's not going to happen. Or I can pick myself up and I can be a man and get shit done. And that's what I decided to do. So I reached out to a lot of the teams that I was filming. I mended any issues that I had with them in the past. I signed back up for college courses. I paid off my credit card debt, paid for my classes in advance for college with the money I made from editing. And I hit the ground running my senior year of college. I took 18 credits worth of courses in the fall. I only had one semester left. Because I had changed my major from computer science to communications, I had all these electives done, and I only had one semester left. So I ended up graduating one semester late. But I remember that the grind that it took that semester was hard. I was working nonstop, basically. I would go to class in the daytime. I would film soccer games at night, and then I would weight train at around midnight. And then I'd do the same thing over and over. I had a really structured, regimented schedule. I was putting on muscle mass. I was going to more social events. I was meeting new people. I was building new connections. And when I had graduated college, I knew that I wanted to work at the college I went to. So I applied to over 800 jobs at the university, ranging from custodian and front desk night shift, all the way to, senior marketing manager and whatnot. I did have a job. The first job I had out of college was an educational assistant at the elementary school I went to as a kid, but I knew that was just to hold me over until I got an actual job. I eventually landed an interview for a good paying job at the university. It was for marketing. And it was right up my alley because they were looking for people who specialized in videography and social media and video editing and whatnot. And I figured this job makes sense for me to pursue because it'll make me more money and it'll enhance my skills. I'll be applying my skills in an environment that makes a lot of sense moving forward. So I do the interview and everything goes well. and I get the job. And that was a massive turning point for me because that was the first real job that I got out of college. So I start working there in October of 2019. And it was amazing because my twin brother had been working in Japan for a massive MMA promotion over there called Ryzen. And he was working there essentially as an intern. He would pay for his ticket to go there, and then they would take care of him once he was there. So December rolls around, and they have their massive annual New Year's Eve event. And my twin asked me, "Do you want to tag along this year? My boss is looking for someone who can do some video work." And I said, "For sure. Like, I have the money. I've saved up enough money to pay for myself if I want to go there." So I said, "Why not? I would love to work in the MMA industry. This is a perfect way to get into it." So I pay for the ticket. I digitally introduced myself to my twin brother's boss, who was an amazing person. I packed my bags and we flew out to Japan. And that was a life-changing experience for me. We landed in Tokyo around 9 p.m. and I had a massive suitcase with me. I had a carry-on with me, and we took the train to the neighborhood where our boss was staying. And he wasn't at home, so we ended up sitting outside of his apartment for about 2.5 hours. And I was so tired, so sweaty. I was just ready to go to sleep. So fast forward, the boss arrives home. His wife opens the door for us. We see his 2 kids run up to the front door. And it was so funny because we hadn't figured out where we were staying. We were just going to crash there for the night. I had really bad jet lag, so I got up again around like 5 a.m. and just started walking around. Came back home around 7 or 8, and we had breakfast. And we got along really well with his family. His 2 kids were really nice, really friendly, tried their best to understand what we were saying in English. We tried our best to understand what they were saying in Japanese. And thankfully, his wife spoke really good English as well. So the situation was just really good. It all worked out really well. The boss says, "Hey, if you guys don't have anything figured out as to where you're staying, you can just stay with me." So we ended up staying with him the whole trip. We were there for about 18 days. And it was amazing because when we actually were working the event, we worked with massive historic figures in the sport. Fedor Emelianenko was fighting. Rampage Jackson was fighting. Michael Chandler was fighting. Michael Venom Page was fighting. It was a very well put together event, and it wasn't only Ryzen fighters. It was also Bellator fighters, and Bellator was the #1 competitor to the UFC at the time. So everything goes great. We do the media day interviews, we do the pre-fight interviews, we do the post-fight interviews. The event itself was amazing. I was cage side for Rampage versus Fedor, and these are guys that I had been watching for years at that point, going back all the way to 2003, 2004, 2005, and even earlier than that, watching all their fights, and I get to see them cage side fighting each other. It was amazing. And the event ends, we do the countdown to New Year's, 2020 hits, and it's just, I came out of that event with a lot of motivation to keep pushing and keep improving. We say bye to the kids, we say bye to my boss, we say bye to his wife, and we fly home. And on the flight home, I got so sick. I was so sick. I ended up being bedridden for about 3 days. I remember Kobe Bryant passed away in a helicopter crash, and barely eating. I was trying to keep everything down, trying to drink water, trying to keep everything down. I get better. I get back to the office. Fast forward a few months, March hits, and then all of a sudden we're hearing rumblings of coronavirus. So everything gets shut down. We turn to remote work, and all of our events that we were marketing for at my job just were completely shut down. The MMA promotion I was working for, Ryzen, they had an indefinite hold on their events as well. So me and my twin were working remotely for them the whole time. Things started to open up slowly in Minnesota. I was able to continue filming and do some live streaming for indoor soccer leagues during this time, still growing my skills, still getting better. And then eventually, when everything opened up, Ryzen started bringing back international fighters for their fights. In early 2022, I had reached out to people who worked at the UFC on LinkedIn. And I connected with this lady who was an editor at the UFC. And I asked her, I was like, "Hey, I'm just curious. How did you develop your skills? How did you improve your editing skills? How did you get to the UFC?" And she replied back with, "How about we just video chat?" So we video chatted for like 3 hours. We got along great. Shared a lot of information. The vibes were really good. She's a very, very nice person. And eventually, when there was an opening at the UFC, she recommended me for the job. And during that time, I was filming with 2 American fighters based in the U.S. who were going to fight in Ryzen. And ironically enough, both of them had previously fought in the UFC. So I was filming with them, editing their footage, and I got a call from the UFC to do an interview. So I had a phone interview. I did a trial edit for them. That went great. And then they flew me out to Vegas, to HQ, for an in-person interview. That went great. It was really weird because I had a sense that ever since this opportunity came to me to work for the UFC, that it was going to happen. Sooner or later, one way or another, it was going to happen for me. I got the call. I picked up the phone. I said, hey, how's everything? And the supervisor at the time, he said, we'd like to offer you the job. And I remember I was holding the phone and I just sat there and I was like, I knew it was going to happen. And I said, that's awesome. I'm really glad. And he's like, are you excited? I was like, yeah, I'm excited. And I didn't really show it. And that's why he asked, because my voice wasn't really excited. It's just one of those moments where everything, the whole journey I went down from not knowing what I wanted to do to finding a new passion to pursuing that new passion, I dug myself out of a hole, put myself in a better position, applied myself. It was full circle. It was a culmination of all of my efforts up until that point. And it was life-changing for me because I ended up moving to Vegas. I was able to buy a house. I was able to get myself out of some debt that I had incurred. It was just a really fulfilling and gratifying moment for me because I knew I was in a place in life where I had no idea what I wanted to do, what the next step was. And then I found my purpose. I found my passion, and I was able to combine 3 different things. Am I good at it? Do I like it? And can I get paid for it? And it was a perfect balance of those 3 things. I remember when I informed my job at the university that I was leaving and that I had accepted a position at the UFC, so many people that I had worked with, whether in a small capacity or a large capacity, they were really happy for me. They sensed that I was a really ambitious person, and I was younger than them, younger than a lot of them. I was only 23, 24, 25 when I was working there, and most of them were in their 40s. And it was really cool to see them reach out to me and show their excitement for me. They were genuinely happy for me, and that also showed me that I had left a good impression on them, and they appreciated working with me, which was really gratifying. And as much doom and gloom as there is in the world, and how everyone goes through their own challenges and they're navigating life and we're all kind of figuring things out as we go along, there's still a lot of good things that you can go through, a lot of good things that you can experience if you apply yourself and you really try to make something of yourself. And obviously it doesn't happen to everyone. You're not guaranteed for it to happen to you. Nothing in life is guaranteed. But if you at least give yourself a shot and try to improve and get better at whatever it is that you're doing, you have a chance at improving your life. And that's what life is. Life is always about improvement. It's a never-ending process of chasing something, chasing a better future. And no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're working at an Amazon warehouse or you're working in construction or you're working in academia or you're working in a generic marketing environment or you're working a remote job, it doesn't matter what you're doing. As long as you're trying to improve, meet new people, network, and improve yourself and grow your skill set, you're putting yourself in a position for a much, much better future. I was a kid who, growing up, always felt like I was destined for something special, and a lot of people do feel that way, even if it's not merited, right? I knew I had potential when I played soccer. I knew that people thought highly of me, and when I didn't achieve my initial dreams, I could have given up. I remember telling myself, don't expect too much out of life because then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. While it is pragmatic and it can be a useful approach to life, it's kind of depressing. It leads to a dead end. It leads to not wanting to improve. It leads to complacency, and it's a really toxic mindset. My life is an example of not giving up and pursuing something great, and at least giving yourself a shot at something great. I'm still 29. I have no consumer debt. I own a house. I have saving power. I have investing power, and I'm doing what I love every day. It still blows my mind that 22-year-old me who was in community college, in a university, and instead of paying attention to whatever the teacher was telling me, I was on my computer watching old MMA events from the late 90s and the early 2000s and really studying the history of the sport. And now I work for the largest organization in the industry, the worldwide leader in mixed martial arts. And I get to work with superstars, legends of the sport. I've been able to film with them. I work side by side with them. I speak to them. They know who I am. It's normal now because I've been doing it for quite some time, but it blows my mind when I sit back and think about it. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to say I'm all this or all that. I'm just saying that I applied myself. I moved forward during a time of uncertainty, and it resulted in me living out my dream. And I really hope that you guys can experience that sometime. Just make sure you don't give up. Make sure you apply yourself. Make sure you're always trying to grow and always trying to learn, because that's how you end up in a spot that you want to be. It's better than being stagnant and not trying to grow. I know this video was kind of long. It's the longest one I've filmed so far, but it's something more positive to take from rather than the doom and gloom that we see in a lot of COD commentary videos. So what about you guys? Have you ever had to dig yourself out of a hole, whether it's financially or emotionally or spiritually? Have you ever pushed forward and ended up in a spot that's much, much better than you were? Let me know in the comments, because I genuinely want to know what experiences you guys have had and the gratification that you've got from it. That's all from me, and just as a reminder, keep doing the small things because the small things add up, and that's what makes the big difference. Have a good rest of your day or your night, and I'll see you next time.